Welcome to ZED Talks. This is another little snippet of discussion with a lovely connection I recently made with Cynthia Abbott Kerr, who has a company called Pay Reward, and it's an AI-based company. I'm not going to talk about it because Cynthia will. And I'd love to welcome you to the show and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much. So I really appreciate being here. We met a few months ago on LinkedIn, have been supporting each other as, female founders and business owners, and just really excited to have this conversation. I'm ready to dive deep. I'll follow your lead.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, just so as I say, and I want to pride myself as this channel grows, that it's not scripted, it's not edited, it's a free, full conversation of the reality of what we are dealing with. So you picked up on a couple of things, which is female founders. That means that we're entrepreneurs and that life can be incredibly challenging in more ways than one. And offline, we were just talking about sort of, the volatility and at the time of recording this, July 4th is upon us in the US, which, typically there's a little bit of a lull or a dip in some service sectors. And it brings home the entrepreneurial journey, which is, in my experience, everything between magnificent and diabolical and lonely and community, like every polarity you can imagine. So I'd love to kind of hear about what you're experiencing and what your experience has been being an entrepreneur. I'd love to know that.
Yeah, well, so I'm in year two. Year one was just a really big, busy boom year for Wellpay, which was great. Year two has been a slower year, just being honest. So it's allowed me to build tools. It's allowed me to build community and connection. You and I were chatting in the pre-show about, enjoying kind of the slower pace. And a lot of entrepreneurs have said that to me, like, enjoy the slower pace now, the tide will return. And I think that's true for a lot of chapters in our life, right? That we can feel like the tide's never going to return again, but it will. I started WellPay 2 years ago after having had a corporate career because in my lived experience as a compensation and rewards expert, it was always the minutia of the data that was so exhausting
Yeah.
that myself and others in a similar space, we didn't have the capacity to show up as full business partners because we were so exhausted from the lift that it took to build everything. So I thought, well, why don't I build a tool that can eliminate the exhaustion, do the lift for the teams? They can take that information and then go out and be the compensation and rewards business partners to the business. Not having to be up until 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning trying to do some analysis for a 9 o'clock call. I've been there numerous times.
I'm like,
Yes.
bing, bing. If anyone isn't turned on by, I'm taking the fatigue away, I'm taking the exhaustion away, I can do the heavy lifting. Why wouldn't we
Why
take
wouldn't
that
I?
up? Why wouldn't we?
Why
So,
wouldn't
my goodness, that is, I mean, congratulations on building that because
you?
it's not everybody can take an idea and actually bring it to life.
Yeah.
I mean, they say the 1%, right? Less than 1%. And even still, when a female will do that, there's less opportunity for funding investment because even a slice of that percentage, even if it was 1% of females, the female investment is like hugely hugely low. That's probably a contradiction. Anyway, have you needed investment to get your till built, or have you done it all yourself?
My husband and I have done it all ourselves.
Go
So
you.
thank you. We're a husband and wife team. He's an artificial intelligence expert. And the story of WellPay is kind of unique in that we were on a trip in Japan and we were walking to Meiji Temple in Tokyo, which for anybody listening, that's like a mile plus walk. It was September, so it was brutally hot. So I might have been hallucinating, right, when we're walking. And he said to me, you know, you should start your own business. And I'm like, what? Where's this coming from? How, wait a second. We're on this trip. What are you talking about? He's like, you worked with a bunch of consultants. You can do the work and I'll build all your tools. So to have somebody that could take my ideas and bring it to life with a technology lens, I think has been really powerful. And I've been told a lot of things along the way, right? When I hung my shingle, I had another founder reach out and send me a really hateful 8 paragraph note on
Hmm.
LinkedIn, about how there's no way, I had been working on this for years, as if he were the keeper of time, right? Because we can't be multifaceted, right? We couldn't be involved in one thing and working on something else. And I think he felt threatened, which, okay, it's a very strange way to do it. For anybody listening, I would never recommend sending a threatening note to someone with your picture and your name beside it on LinkedIn. Um, you know, I,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a child of the 90s, right? We would just cut letters out of the newspaper and mail them, right? Like you need to not have your fingerprints on things like this, but I don't know. I digress, right? Maybe in that moment it felt like what he needed to do, but and several other well-meaning people were like, Cynthia, there's all kinds of compensation consultants out here. CHROs have their person. If a CHRO doesn't have you as their person, you just won't get any business. And I also have had, though, a lot of people that were like, yeah, let's partner. Yeah, let's work together. Here, I was in this conversation and someone mentioned they might need compensation or rewards help, and I mentioned your name. And I say that just because we never know the good things, the good work that's happening around us, right? Like it's easy to feel dismayed. We live in a heavily filtered world,
Yes.
right? You
Yeah.
look out on LinkedIn, everybody's perfect.
Yeah.
Which is wild because we used to buy Cosmo at the store and knew it was all airbrushed, right? We
Yeah.
knew, and you know this from your background, right?
Yep.
Like we knew it was, I mean, you sat in rooms and talked about, editorial and what we're doing for, the month, the quarter, the holiday. Like we knew it was all stylized and planned, but now because it's in real time, we think everybody else is further ahead than they are.
Yeah.
That's something I've really had to work on is not doing the comparison of like, oh, they say they're landing so much business. How come I'm not? People can say a lot of things.
You've hit the nail on the head. People can, this tool that we have, a mouth and words. So I'm quite spiritual in the sense that I believe in everything beyond this physicality. I believe that there's something bigger than us. And I also believe that if you look at the word spelling, it's got spell in it. So we can use our word to do things with and create an environment, a belief with just our word.
Mhm.
I mean, terrorist leaders, terrible leaders in our history have manipulated people with their word. So just to kind of like compound that point and make my point, people have been prepared to lose their life for a leader in terrorism, for example. So that's how it can be used, word and a dream sold almost. So with that scene set, not to lower the tone about that kind of thing, but
Yeah, that's great.
the point is that words can it's very easy. And then we're painted this stylized picture
Mhm.
on places, which is I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Well, on the contrary of that, mental health statistics are probably the worst they've been in my lifetime because we're all now keeping up with the Joneses, or we've got to do this, or we've got to do that. And nothing towards the Joneses, by the way, that's just a figure of speech. So we're in this now stylized world, and it's captured on film, text, video, everywhere. We're recorded. And so I find, and I'd love your view on this, there are days as an entrepreneur that I feel very alone. And on those days, my mind can go into quite low places, dark places sometimes. And I can think, oh my God, this is how it is forever. Just like you said, I can feel like this. I'm in the pit of despair. And I then feel at that point that there will be people ready to poke holes in me. So I just be quiet. I
Mhm.
won't say anything. But the reality is that we need to build a place where we can join a safe space to be able to go, I have revenue's absolutely terrible this month. I'm panicking. I don't, quite know how to get out this rut. Everything I've done before isn't working. To be able to vomit our stuff in
Yeah.
a safe way that's not used as ammunition against us. And the world's full of nice people, don't get me wrong, but there's also some people that want us to fail. And by the way, that person that you referenced earlier on, sorry, dick alert. And I'm going to say it. It's just cruel and it's not necessary. If you've got something, nothing
Right.
nice to say, keep your mouth shut, kind of thing. So, anyway, that riles me when people think they've got the right to type you this thing and tell you. I'm like, okay, let them theory, Mel Robbins. But anyway,
Right.
um,
It was the most bizarre thing at 7:30 on a Saturday morning. I was like, you clearly don't have a girlfriend.
you,
Like,
if you could add it to my LinkedIn comments and raise the algorithm, my visibility, that would be great. Thank you very much. But going back to the vulnerability thing, so there's you and your husband, and that's a wonderful partnership. And I'm coming across more and more couples that are working together. I mean, do you kind of like, are you each other's sounding board? Do you, I mean, it must be helpful, but at the same time, you don't want it to always navigate your relationship, which is a whole nother discussion around husband and wife or same sex. It doesn't matter, Mr. and Mr. or Mr. and Mrs., whatever it is. A partnership that is a partnership, romantic and business, cannot be easy.
it's been it's been an interesting chapter. Richard started a company 7 or 8 years ago, so he's been an entrepreneur. We have a term called engagements, right? And career life cycle. So he's been an entrepreneur. He's also, been inside of companies and had some pretty high level executive roles. So he understands the ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Uh, Much to your point, you know, I feel a lot of the stress and the strain, and also the imagery of if this doesn't go right, right, as a woman. And I've really leaned in on my female relationships. Because not that he and I don't have a great partnership, but I think I think as women we carry things differently when they're not going in our perceived direction of success,
Yeah.
right? Men are like, all right, I'll go over here and do this thing. And I've really leaned in like with you, and having conversations with other women around, is this how it's felt for others? Is this normal? And I appreciate when other people are honest with me and they're like, yes, this has been like the hardest 6 months of my experience too. Because I think our partners, while well-meaning, can say, oh, it'll be fine, right? And that doesn't really satiate that feeling of, I need to talk to somebody about this. And all the incompleteness I have felt when things haven't gone in the direction I thought they would. Because I came from a space inside of corporate America where a majority of jobs I interviewed for, I landed,
Mm.
right? And now I'm selling a service. So it's me, but you're really making a budgetary decision about the service. So it's going to be less one-to-one alignment on the ball. How come you're not picking me for this job? And more, as a company, you've decided to not engage with my company, and that's okay. I also think it's forced me to not dwell as an entrepreneur because you just don't have the time,
Mm.
right? You're like, okay, I have to move to the next conversation. I have to think about the next event. I have to, and there's a lot about entrepreneurship that's been really, I think, really helpful. I used to have a really deep fear of public speaking, and of being criticized.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it's resonating. Yes.
I grew up with people who didn't know any better, but were very critical and emotionally unavailable.
Mm.
And so that has played out in my life of me wanting everything to be perfect and, not knowing how to interpret let's say, good critique from bad critique. And it took many decades of my life. And now I think I'm like, okay, not everybody's gonna want, I'm gonna make it up, this pink highlighter. That's fine. You continue to talk and you go to wherever somebody does want the pink highlighter.
Right.
And
Totally.
it's just, you made a point earlier about our words. And there's a book, The Four Agreements,
Yes.
right? And, don't it's, be impeccable with your word. Don't take it personally, right? And in the beginning, they're talking about how the Toltecs believed that you could create magic with your words.
Yeah.
And so I've worked on trying to say positive things to myself. Because, I think I wouldn't want somebody else to think negative about themselves.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that can be really hard, um, when you're not going in the direction you thought you would. Um, but I've leaned into those female relationships and also talking honestly with people, right? Like when I talk to somebody and they're like, "Oh my God, my life is so amazing." And I'm like, where do you live?"
Yeah.
Right? Like what space and time are you occupying? Versus I'm very honest when people will say, "Well, how's it going? How amazing is your business?" And I'm like, "Well, I really enjoy what I do. It's been slow." And I also think that that resonates with where we are in the market. Like I read a report the other day that Accenture said their consulting business was down by 19%.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's not representative of every single service provider, but I think that's representative of the market as a whole that a lot of businesses are pausing. They're unsure of what they're going to do. That doesn't mean that we stop doing what we're doing and that we stop moving forward with our skill set and our expertise, but I think it means that we have to be realistic that there's not some magic hurdle I'm going to jump over. Some of this is I just have to be patient with the stillness.
Oh God, that's such a rich conversation. And these are moments where emotion comes into play because people can be very hurtful.
Mm.
Some people are intentional to be hurtful, and there's people that are unintentional. And I do think that when you work for yourself, you have to make a very clear distinction between the rejection is not me, it's the service that I proposed. It's my proposal that's been rejected. Equally so, when we're accepted, it's not me that's been accepted, it's the proposal, the service, the product that I've proposed. And that's where, to me, self-worth and like self-esteem get completely embroiled and wrapped into, well, like, what have I done? Like it can be very, very hard. And I won't lie, there's times that I have experienced where I thought somebody was really going to, they've told me verbally yes. And yes, we want to, you in our business. Yes, I've been working them for 3 months. I've gone over and above with time. I haven't charged them for it. They've given me all the flags. And then when it come down to the wire is just like a very, blunt text message. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
we just changed the route. We no longer want to engage with you. There were the
Mhm.
words. I no longer want to engage with you. And that was the time that I kind of had this.
Mhm.
What did I do wrong? Ruminating. What did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? Well, I must have said something wrong. What did I say? Oh my God. Like
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
whole rumination.
Did I
Um,
put too many apostrophes in an email? Did I not?
yeah,
Did I
what
not
was I
come
missing? What
professional? Huh?
it is so much in that. And I think that you're right to dwell on it can the most important thing is, like, is there anything that I can do to overcome, what are your objections, but sometimes you don't get the opportunity to do that. You've
Right.
asked the right questions before, and it's just the way the cookie crumbles. So I accept that that's kind of really hot. It can be really harsh, and other times it could be breeze. It's like getting the deal over the line is like, that
And
was
you're
so
like,
easy,
you're
so
like,
easy.
this is amazing. Why can't everything go that way? One thing I've been trying to incorporate in my week as well is it's really easy to focus on ourselves. And I've been trying to spend time giving back to the community. and helping others.
Yeah.
So I volunteer at a food bank here in Las Vegas. That's where I live. I'm now in Sin City. And then, any contact of mine that's like, hey, can you review my resume? Or could you make an intro for me at this place? XYZ. Because I think it's easy to get caught up in kind of your own churn.
Yeah. Totally.
And,
Yes.
I've found that in life, every time I've given back, tenfold has come back to me because people remember how you treated them in the in-between.
So I talk about this a lot, Cynthia, which is at your funeral, right? And I'm sorry that this might trigger some people. So trigger warning, when any new client that I coach, I ask them to write their eulogy. Now, I ask them to read it to me. They usually can't because if they're on point, there's such emotion that cannot be held back. The people that can speak it like a script, it's because this is the difference. The script one is I was a successful business person. I made this much money. It's kind of like all of these things, right? So they can rattle off the achievements that they've done. Tell me any eulogy that's ever sounded like. I've never been to a funeral that does that. The one is, you know what? This is a person, how they made me feel, what they did, the kindness, what they gave to the community. Like we missed the energy, the kind of, oh, so grateful to, there's so many, that's the emotion, right? So when we touch on something, the emotion usually gives way, and that's because it's important to us. So no one really ever remembers anyone for the job that, I mean, there are certain people in the public eye, we do remember them for the jobs that they did, but we also have a critique on how they either manage people, what their style was like. I mean, they're not even here to defend themselves, but it's mainly about the people that were close to them and more about how they made them feel. And I kind of regularly use this as a metaphor for all the stuff that you do in between your life will be lost in time. No one's going to really remember it unless you are. So you've got to enjoy what you do and enjoy the process of being and enjoy everything in between and all the messiness. But you picked up on a book which changed my life 15, maybe 18 years ago now, um, maybe nearly 20. Gosh, Don Miguel Ruiz, Four Agreements. You said two of them. Don't make assumptions and always do your best.
Yep.
These rules, if anybody wants a great read, and it's a tiny little book.
It is, and I've given it to people on my team.
Yes.
I've given
Yes.
it out. Like I'm gonna sound very old school. My nieces and nephews say I'm vintage because I give them books. They're Gen Alpha, and I give them books. I've given it to people as gifts for
Yeah.
taking a new role. It's so well you can apply it to every situation because how many
Absolutely.
times do we take it personal? Like we were just talking about, do we take it personal? Right? How many times have we not been impeccable with our work? Like you can dissect everything and you're like, oh man, but it's so true,
Yeah.
because I think we put so much of ourselves into what we do, whether it's our personal brand, our professional brand, our, anything we create.
Yeah.
You know, I think we put so much of ourselves, it's hard to not take it personal
Yeah.
because your identity is so entwined with, you know, doing a great job or always being, impeccable with your word. Like it's hard to decouple, but you have to, I think it's more for mental health and your own sanity.
Oh gosh, yes. And in fact, I'll put it in my newsletter for next month because I think it's a great read for every entrepreneur when you can. So, in the same way that you need to separate your bank accounts, you don't have a business bank, your business is not your personal bank account. They need to be separate. In the same way, you need to distill and detach
Mhm.
the value of your last corporate job and the status and the money that you earned. It's not you anymore. Don't compare. You're a newer version of yourself, an improved version of yourself. You made choices to go down a route which is different than what your previous choices have been. Why? It comes back to Simon Sinek's why as well, kind of like why we do the things we do. But that book was so powerful to me, and I practiced each one in turn. And then over time, and I still go back and I read this book at least once a year. and I carry it around with me when I travel, and I gift it to somebody. That, to your point, if I'm in conversation, if there's one thing I can do is they might remember, because somebody did that to me. I'm sat on a beach in Miami at the Ritz Hotel on Fisher Island, and this somebody said to me, we were in a discussion, and here they said, look, I've got something for you. And that is what made it so meaningful to me, that the conversation was so memorable. And lots have happened in between that time and now. And I read it once, I didn't really get it, I didn't really understand it, read it again, and then started to continually read it. And every time I read it, I see and feel something different, a new aspect, a new perspective, because my situation is changing and I'm applying it in different ways in my life. And that book is very, very profound, and it's so simple, ridiculously simple. And when you do the agreements, life becomes simple. Do you know that there's also a fifth agreement?
No, tell me.
So the fifth agreement is the latest agreement that Don's come out with. I like it's my best friend, that Don's come out with, which is, I think it's based on, is everything real, or is it all make believe?
Well,
So
I
I'm
mean,
like, okay, now we're getting really esoteric and metaphysical here, because the other ones are quite grounded in, it makes a lot of sense. But this fifth one kind of blows it into, but what's real anyway, kind of thing. So it's on the principle. So I shied away from reading it because for this reason of, oh gosh, we're going in a very different direction. And I think I like where we were before. Now,
oh,
of course, change is inevitable, isn't it? Change is inevitable. So yeah, it's all about being, is it belief, is it misbelief, or is it, so that is quite an interesting turn of direction. And I'm reminded that I must read it. I'm going to Ireland in a couple of weeks and my friend's got it, so I'm going to read it there. But it's an interesting path being an entrepreneur, and especially coupled in an entrepreneurial relationship with another that you're having a business with. So coming back to your sort of business, and thank you for sharing and being open and vulnerable, because I think that paves the way for other people to feel it's okay to be the way we are. And no matter how age you get, your emotions don't age. We still experience whatever your situation is, whatever the job, how much you earn, doesn't all really matter. How we feel inside about ourselves is probably where I put most emphasis. But coming back to then sort of the landscape. So what was rattling around in my head? Bit dangerous, I know, but we're going to go there. I see more than ever. So this is what I see. And I talk to a lot of people in HR, in the HR world, and there's a lot of turnover, labour turnover. There's a lot of flight risk. Talent's really hard to get, really hard, like never before. I mean, there are so many people open to work. It's unbelievable. I've never experienced it in my whole career. So we're in, I don't know, extraterrestrial times. I don't know, but it's weird. And I'm seeing more people struggle with mental health than ever because of insecurity of jobs, because of burnout, so much. And I find it very weird, and I don't know that that's the right word, because I'm not finding the right words in this moment, and I will come to my point, that at this moment, so for example, I look at salaries that were, let's say, 170, a price point, whether it's dollars, pounds, Japanese yen, whatever it is, 170. A job that was there 5 years ago for that is now 90K. Like, it's in this world, and I guess that there's a shift in labour requirements, right? So that does have an impact, and I know there are trends, but I'm seeing now jobs radically, and same responsibility, same weight, but this poor salary in comparison to what might have been 5 years ago. I'm curious about what you're seeing. Is there any similarities, and why isn't it more now than ever? But people are the pulse checking of their business. They're looking at their employees and pulse checking them. Why they're not pulse checking pay? Why they're not pulse checking the benefits that they have? Why are they not staying relevant in a highly volatile, changing world? Why do you think that might be? What do you see?
Well, we're seeing, to your point, a lot of supply.
Yeah.
And so if we think about, you know, the economics of labor and supply and demand, we have a lot of supply and uncertain demand.
Yeah.
Right? There are certain sectors that are very high in demand and certain sectors that are not. I think this actually goes back, and given your background, I think you'll appreciate this. I think what we're the what I think of as the gully that we're living in right now in the labor market is actually, I think, drawn back to the 2009 Great Recession
Okay. Mm-hmm.
when we gutted learning teams, we gutted development programs. We said we don't need an L&OD function at these companies. So now here we are almost 2 decades later, and we have people in leadership positions that don't know how to assess talent. So it's a continuous revolving door, don't know how to have career conversations. So people feel undervalued, don't know how to work within the apparatus of a company to evaluate pay, don't know how to give constructive performance feedback. I also think just uh, explosion may be the wrong word, but I'll use it because let's be salacious, right? Tomorrow's July 4th, fireworks explosion. I think the explosion of LinkedIn has commoditized labor,
Yeah.
and that the same way corn is a commodity, right? You don't distinguish, you're like, oh, I'll buy that ear of corn. And if it's not what I want when I grill it, then I'll just buy this ear of corn. And we've had that in the labor market now. So, labor is a commodity, plenty of supply, uncertain demand. And it's put companies in a space of they don't know what is a headwind, what is a tailwind of what they should pulse on, what they shouldn't. I think there are foundational elements here, though, that are always going to be important and always in style, if it were.
Mm.
That undercompensating or not pulsing on the market for your compensation or your benefits. We know that when the market is down, the recovery is massive. So the market is down right now. It is. We're in a recessed economy. I say that very confidently based on GDP and also based on the amount of jobs that were not added in the prior months, just the numbers, right? The recovery, though, is typically 2 and 3x, and companies end up then being very far behind. So the way that you and I were talking about, this kind of low tide season,
Mm.
that's when you prepare everything. That's when you make sure all of your systems are in place. That's when you make sure all of your materials so that you can support, right? You don't build the hurricane shelter during the hurricane. You build the hurricane shelter before the hurricane. And, as the tide returns, I think we're going to see businesses scrambling. Versus, to your point, if we need to make adjustments, the delta right now between number A and number B is small.
Mm.
Versus in the recovery market, the delta
Right.
between A and B is going to be massive.
Yes.
So let's be prepared and let's be aligned now so that we're not in this just reactive, constant spinning ball space versus we could be proactive, we could have strategy, we could have communication, because trying to communicate in a fire drill, you can do it, but the message is going to get lost.
Gosh, there's so many things in there, which is build the hurricane shelter before the hurricane, messaging in a fire drill, things get, these are, it's such a great reminder that there is a cycle. There is an ebb and flow. The ocean, so as sure as the sun's going to come up every day and the moon is too, and the tides will turn and the waters will ebb and flow because that is the law of nature. It is not going to change. And you're right. We have seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. We might not experience them in the same way in different places, but we still have them. We still have the same elements: air, fire, water, earth. These are the static things that we have, but they still move over time because there's cycles. And I think that that's, as we kind of wrap up our beautiful conversation for today, but hopefully there's more another time, is that everything in life is moving in cycles. And whether you're in a paid job, you're an entrepreneur, or anything in between, there is sure going to be good days and there's sure going to be not good days. And we just have to know that good days will come around, and know that the good days, we can ride them, learn from them. And when the not so good days are here, we can harvest and we can prepare and we can do the things that we really want to do and come into that stillness, as you said. This has been such a great conversation. I've enjoyed it so much, and I'm so grateful for your time. And I would love to be able to bring you back in another moment and talk about how things are in your world in later this year, maybe, if you're up for that.
I would love it.
I love it, because what I'm trying to do is build also voices on here which come back, give a different perspective, so that we're building some kind of bank of knowledge. And yes, it's lovely to have different people, and I will, but hopefully they can come back and share what's changed, what they're seeing, how they're pivoting their business in this changing world and stuff like that. So thank you again, and I really appreciate you being here. And I'm just going to press the stop record. And for anybody that's listening, just before I do, and those listeners, all the things that we've spoken about, if this resonates with you, I'd love you to subscribe to the channel, and I'd love you to check out Cynthia. All her details will be below, and start building connections. Even if you don't need something right now, start building those connections, because we're building a hurricane shelter before the hurricane. And on that note, thank you so much. Until next time, over and out.